Hello, it's Miss Julie with the Byron Public Library, and today I'm going to go over how to make a cymbal machine winch. So you have several items in your kit, and you'll have to collect some things from home. Things that you'll need from home are a pencil, scissors, a stapler if you have it. If you don't have a stapler, heavy-duty tape, and you might want to get some tape, masking tape or duct tape anyway, and then some type of items, like I have some small rocks here, any kind of something small that you're going to try to use your winch to raise up. Okay, so the items in your kit is I actually gave you a long piece of cardboard, and I'm suggesting that you might want to cut it in half. If you like, I gave you your paper towel tubes. Everything is brown. If you want it to be colorful, you can paint it. I actually painted mine this really pretty blue color, but I painted mine after I put it together, which is not terrible, but sometimes when you put paint on cardboard, it buckles a little. So now this item isn't very stable, which is why I ended up cutting it in half. It tips a little bit, so I'm probably gonna have to tape it down to my table or another surface. So you might want to paint first, let it dry, and then you'll know what your cardboard's looking like. I also cut it in half because that just makes it more flexible. If one end of your cardboard, here's my other side, it's pretty tippy. So when it was connected, it wasn't very stable just because the way it dried. So paint it first if you'd like to paint. You don't have to paint it, it's totally up to you, okay? So if you're ready to construct, you have probably 2 pieces of cardboard. If you want to keep it one long one, that's okay. But then we have these tower pieces, which is our paper towel tubes. So how are we going to get these to stick and attach to this base so it's sturdy? If you set these on the table, you'll see they do stand up, but they're not very stable. If you just bump it once, it falls over, right? So if we can attach it to a base, that provides more stability. And in fact, once we attach to this base, we could even adhere this base to a table or other surface to make it even more stable. So one thing you might be thinking of is a hot glue gun, which possibly could work, but it's a very narrow bit of surface. It's very thin. So if you have a hot glue gun at home and you think that that might be a good design strategy, you could try that. I'm assuming that everyone doesn't have a hot glue gun, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some cuts in the bottom of my tube. Now you'll want to make sure that your tubes are even. So do one first. You even might want to get a ruler and measure. So what you're going to need to do is make some slits in your tube. And you want those to be the same size. And what that allows you to do is that allows you to bend your tube up and make some, right? So now my tube looks like this. So now, and then this is where it's a little tricky. Mine look pretty good. You can make your cardboard smaller too if you don't want it to be this big. And so then what you're gonna do if you have a stapler, then that allows you to just staple this to this piece of cardboard. So you're gonna go around with the staple and attach it. And that allows that to be pretty stable on there. You could also add some tape if you feel like it's not exactly straight, but see, that's pretty stable now, and because we have this big base, that also gives it more stability. So you'll want to do that with both of your tubes. If you have 2 pieces of cardboard, you can go ahead and do that. And the thing you're going to want to make sure of is that these are even, right? So you'll want to be sure that you cut both of them the same. If you leave your cardboard big, it is more challenging because you're going to have to figure out how far apart to place it based on your dowel. So I would suggest doing the 2 pieces of cardboard. That just gives you more flexibility. So go ahead and trim that in half. and attach those, okay? So once we have those towers attached, then you have to create, this is your mechanism that you're gonna roll to move an item up and down. So if I just set it on this, it's gonna fall off, right? This is off flat. So what we have to do is we have to notch a spot for this to rest. Now, a moment of caution, when I created my first one, I didn't measure very carefully. And like this was my first go and it didn't work. I made it too big. It was way too big and it was moving around in there. So again, this is when you'll want your pencil and you'll want to set that, and maybe you need someone to help you hold it because you want it to be even across. And then you're just gonna mark with your pencil on either side how big your dowel is, okay? So that will, oops, that fell over because it wasn't attached. So that'll help you know how deep you wanna make those notches. And you can always make it, you can always change the depth if you need it. Go small. So the width is what's really important. You don't want it to be too wide. You want this to rest in there very nicely. So go ahead and trim out a little bit. You can always trim deeper and wider. So go just as narrow as you can to start with, because you'll want that to rest in there. Like mine's kind of a mess, it's kind of messy, but here's my other one I already did. My paper towel tubes, I kind of use the junky ones for my project, so you would get nice paper towel tubes. So now you can see that those rest in there nicely. And it turns, okay? So that's what you're going for. So you want to do that with both sides, all right? Then you need to make, I'm going to set these aside, you need to make your basket. In your basket, I included a cup. I think I cut one. I think I included one that had the holes punched, and then I gave you just another cup in case you wanted to do that part yourself, but I wasn't sure everyone had a hole punch. Or if something happens to this cup, you have a spare. So now we have to think about how can we attach this cup to our dowel rod, okay? And I've given you some wire. You're going to want to thread that through. I think this is a little bit bigger than the one I gave you, but it makes it easy to see. And then you're going to want to bend it in again and through the holes so that it's nicely attached. Now you'll notice it's really hard to get that straight. It could be I didn't punch my holes exactly right. So that is going to be a little bit of a trick, Now you could, maybe if you have a coin or something small in metal, you could try taping a little something on the bottom to see if that straightens this bucket out. So that's one idea, to put a little more weight. A penny might be too big. You could try a penny, you could try a dime if you have any washers. See if there's just a little thing that you could tape under here to get that to hang straight if it's not. You don't have to do that, but that's a fun challenge to see what weight will counterbalance that, and everyone's might be slightly different, okay? So here's one that I did already. So then you're gonna take your string and you're gonna tie it to the middle of your wire. So you can see this one, it isn't hanging straight either. But I'm not gonna worry about that right now, I'm just gonna show you what you need to do, okay? So you're gonna tie your string, and then you need to tie the string to the middle of the dowel. Okay, so we're gonna do it in the middle. And you also should tape that. I have a big thing of duct tape right here, so I'm just gonna cut off a little piece with my scissors, like so. That's sticky. And then I'm gonna wrap that. I wanna keep it in the middle as much as I can, and then I'm gonna wrap that around there so it stays nicely, okay? Because now we have a situation where we can roll, right? And we're raising, that's rolling up, okay? So in our real world, our winch, I'm gonna set it there. And then I am going to, oops. And definitely, I didn't tape this to the table, but I think that you definitely are gonna want to tape it. But like I said, mine is also tilty because I painted it after I made it. So those are some things engineering wise you can figure out how to make the best design, how to make this steady. Is there anything you wanna do with this to make this rest in there a little more securely? Now remember, you can't tape it in place because you want it to be able to roll freely. But think about, are there any design changes you could make? Maybe you could do something to hold this in place a little bit better, but also allow it to move freely. So that's a design challenge for you. And then finally, we want to fill this up. So I did rocks. So you can show how, if these were, this is sort of a mini model, right? So if this was really heavy rocks, we wouldn't want to have to carry them up a bunch of steps or something really tall. But if we had something like this, we can roll those up to the top where we need them and unload, okay? So that's our winch. We made a winch. Now, another challenge for you, maybe you have something like this cat. Is this cat gonna really fit in here? Not very well. And in fact, I even had this big Lego person that I thought, well, maybe that'll work. So I emptied my rocks out and I thought, well, the Lego person will fit in there. Maybe, but oh, look what happened, right? So because this cup isn't very deep and the wire is there, this person is too big. If you have a mini Lego figure, I bet you could put a few in there and give them a ride up to the top, okay? So another challenge is if you have any cardboard at home, maybe find a flat piece and think about, could you make something that would attach to this that would allow you to lift something bigger on a platform. So I'm gonna give you a hint. You're probably gonna need to put holes in here and rig something toward the middle, and this is gonna be challenging because you're going to need it to be even, right? You'll want your string or yarn or pipe cleaners or whatever you use, wire coming from those corners to meet in the middle. Then you'll have something to tie your string to. Then the string at the top can tie to your dowel. Then you could maybe try, if you had a little bit bigger piece of cardboard, maybe that cat would fit. Or maybe it'll fit on this one if it fits in between your wires, but probably my Lego person. So that's just an added, if you like a challenge, to try to figure out how to engineer something a little bit bigger that will move up without tipping over, okay? So that's your Simple Machines winch. Have fun with this design. Thanks for joining me.